This is Water Elemental.
And this is Axis, and we are here today to talk about the League of Legends. It's an ongoing show. We sort of talk about what's been going on with everyone's favorite MOBA-style battle game.
Awesome Nuts?
It's not a MOBA-style battle game.
Oh.
I mean, it is, technically. But why would we talk about it? It's not everyone's favorite. Doesn't make sense. But we got a lot to talk about this week. We're going to talk a little bit about Elise. We skipped over her last week because we were running short on time there. We talked about Zed, some of the Season 3 changes.
A lot of the Season 3 changes.
And sort of what's been going on with the delay regarding Season 2.
I mean, the third time they pushed back Season 2?
Indeed. But let's jump right into it. First of all, let's talk about Elise. Like I said, we had to push her back last week because we were unfortunately short on time. But let's talk about her a little bit this week. Elise is a champion I actually haven't seen a whole lot.
I'm kind of glad we didn't talk about her last week because I've only seen her twice.
She's not been very popular. She's lacking in damage is the big thing. She's got a lot of ability to stay on a target. She's got a lot of cool control mechanics. But unfortunately, that doesn't equate to a lot of killing potential.
She would be better off as a support, but the thing is, though, a lot of her skills require to actually deal damage to do stuff. Therefore, it's kind of bad. She has a escape mechanism, but it requires targets as well. So it's one of those champions where she could be good if she had the damage, but I don't think they gave her so much that they couldn't really balance her appropriately without nerfing her.
Yeah, and I know a lot of people have been really wanting for her to work. My friend Hoofer has been just trying every build with her attack speed AP. He's been trying AD, flat AP cooldowns. There's nothing that I've seen anyone do that can really make this champion get really effective results. Her just damage tables aren't good enough to really get that going for her.
And having a minion cap of 5 may sound good, but they're really weak. One good AoE from almost any champion will just completely decimate all 5 of them and just leave her weak. And especially since you need those for the lifesteal effects and some of the other abilities, it's kind of bad.
Yeah, they need to make them more like Zyra's plants where they have a set amount of tables they can be hit with. So they just don't get mowed down. They just have maybe 1 or 2 hits, direct hits. We'll take them down just so it's...
1 AoE hit, 2 AoE hits would have to do it to take them out. Because right now, especially with champions like Brand and like Ezreal, like an Ezreal ult will just wipe them.
Or even an Ezreal, Essence Flux.
That's right, that too.
Just mows her down. It's hysterical. But at least we just haven't seen too much builds working with her. I haven't seen much for her at all since her first week, unfortunately. I don't even think I've seen someone with a skin for her. That's how popular she's been.
And we were just hoping that she'd be more interesting, because in theory, she sounded amazing.
I didn't like her lore. I still don't like her lore.
No, her lore is awful.
But her skills were cool, and she had an interesting kit. But unfortunately, she just doesn't cut it. And they've been trying to slowly whittle her up with buffs, but it's not been working.
It's not going to be like Syndra, where they're just going to try to mess with her a little bit more. But
Syndra's still in a rough place.
Well, she keeps getting her and Blitzcrank lately just have been having a hard time.
Yeah, because it's been buggy. But Elise, I know we're kind of skimming over her, but like I said, there's not much to talk about with her because she just doesn't do much, and she's not incredibly compelling.
I give her a 5 at this point because of the fact that I've been rarely able to see her and not able to actually test her out myself, because at this point in time, getting her would cost me either a lot of RP for a champion I can't put out enough damage, or 6,300 IP. So it's just I can't test her myself, and she's just so.
I'm gonna give her a 6 personally. She came with a lot of really cool changes to Twisted Tree Line. So with all the changes to Twisted Tree Line and seeing what Riot can do, seeing this sort of underwhelming damage-wise champion is a little bit of a drag. But she has some cool mechanics. I really like the rappel she does, where she sort of gets a whole area of vision. She can jump onto specific targets. That's really fun, and of course, transformation champions are always cool to look at. But I don't know. I like the cool, bonus magic damage with the lifesteal based on AP. I think that's really cool. But like we said, she doesn't really cut it, And in light of the changes to Twisted Treeline, which were awesome, seeing a champion that's kind of like
She could
lukewarm.
really be good on that map too, since she has a lot of that, especially with the repel, giving her that extra sight and being able just to camp a certain area for a short period of time is really nice. But
Like we said, doesn't cut it, unfortunately. So it's a 5 and a 6 for Elise.
hopefully she becomes a sleeper hit after they buff her up a bit. We've seen other champions do that. Hecarim has become one of those champions. So has, Luck. So has a lot of other champions we've said in the past have been kind of lackluster, but after a few buffs becomes better.
Indeed, and I'm sure she'll be much the same way. She has all the skills there, she just needs a little bit more damage.
Moving on to some other things here, we're going to be talking about Zed. As soon as we finished up with the recording, as we said, his skills came out, and he's pretty interesting. We'll kind of
He
go.
was supposed to come out earlier in the week, unfortunately, but they had to push it back because the test and the patching wasn't done, and there was bugs. But we have all the skills out, we have all the ratios, well, the tentative ratios.
Currently on the PBE because that's the PBE.
But we'll run over his skills real quick for you guys. His passive is Contempt for the Weak. Whenever Zed auto attacks a target below 50% health, deals an additional percentage of their maximum health as magic damage. This effect can occur on the same target for 10 seconds, I believe? 10 seconds.
I think 10 seconds.
This is interesting because you might say, oh, it's like Martial Cadence. Well, Martial Cadence is current health and physical damage. This is maximum health and magic damage. This is much different. His next ability is Razor Shuriken. Zed and his shadows throw their shurikens, each dealing physical damage to the first enemy they pass through, and a lesser amount to enemies afterwards. The shurikens thrown by his shadow that strike the same target also restore some of his energy and deal additional damage.
The Shadow deals 50% of his current AD, while his main attack deals 80, so it is reduced damage if attacking with the Shadow.
Well, 80% of the first target, or 100% of the first target, and 80% after.
Oh, okay.
But there's also a flat value associated. His next ability is Living Shadow. Zed's bonus attack damage is increased by a small percentage. The active, Zed's Shadow dashes forward, remaining in place for 4 seconds. Reactivating this ability causes Zed to switch positions with the Shadow. This Shadow will mimic his basic abilities, and if both strike the same target, Zed will regain some energy. Zed can only have his energy restored once per this mimicked ability. His next ability is Shadow Slash. Zed and his shadows create a burst of energy, dealing physical damage to all nearby enemies. Zed Slash reduces the cooldown of Living Shadow by 1 second for each enemy struck, and his shadow also slows enemy targets. If the overlapping shadow from Shadow Dash strikes the target, it'll deal no additional damage, but will incur an increased slow, and it'll restore some more energy. Next ability and his ultimate is Death Mark. Zed becomes untargetable and dashes to target enemy champion, and upon arrival, he marks the target for death and spawns a living shadow behind the target. The shadow lasts for 4 seconds and mimics Zed's abilities. Reactivating Death's Mark will cause Zed to switch positions with his shadow. After 3 seconds, the mark will detonate, dealing physical damage equal to his attack damage, plus a percentage of all magic and physical damage into the target by Zed and the shadow while the mark was active.
That's a lot of words.
A lot of cool stuff. But basically what it breaks down to...
He's an Oriana ball.
Well, he's not necessarily an Oriana ball. He's sort of an anchor. It's hard to compare him really to anything before because it's a combination of an Oriana ball and a Lulu Pix and even, in some cases, a Vladimir ult. Where basically, he can drop his shadow, fire his shurikens off, get some bonus energy back, get some bonus damage done. Then he can drop his Shadow Slash, get really heavy slows on somebody, fire more shurikens. Or he can line up with his ult at first, get that damage amp on him, unload his combo, and then explode all that damage with his ult. That's one of the cool things I like. I know I've talked about this before, but I love that play on Pix, where you can drop Pix on the furthest enemy minion and then snipe people with that. You can do the same thing with his Living Shadow. And now you'll be able to throw your shadow onto a guy with your ult, drop another shadow, fire your shurikens through this guy, then do a maximum slow auto attack with Contempt for the Weak, and then with all this damage, you'll detonate and deal half of that damage that you've already done. So it makes for a really cool ability setup where you can sort of just get them to a certain point and then sort of switch to a target and they'll blow up and die.
He seems like he's either going to be a really aggressive jungler or he's going to be a very, very good top lane at this point.
Well, he's very energy intensive, but it doesn't look like he has much sustain, which is pretty vital for a good top laner. However, with a certain amount of deception, I think you'll be able to top lane relatively well. And depending on if these shadows draw minion aggro, he might actually be a damn good jungler. If you're able to drop your shadow minion and be like, hey, attack this guy, and they all rush towards your shadow.
My small life has just become meaningless.
And then you just auto attack while your mimic tanks them. I think that'd be really cool if that is the case. If not, I mean, being able to do 100% to 80% of your 80 to all creeps in a line, that's a lot of damage to do.
Especially when you're able to wrap them around, like like in the red buff, able to wrap them around into the bush. They kind of all line up in there, and you kind of can just get that.
Indeed. So I think it'll be really cool to set up, but again, it'll depend on what aggroes to what, and just how easy it is to trick people with your shadow, and just how far you can push people back, because that's a lot of AD in his abilities, and if you're able to do some cool living shadow play, you can counter harass extremely well, because range on an energy champion, I mean, we've seen it with Kennen. Kennen has no sustain, but as a top lane, he's just vicious to fight against because he just keeps throwing shurikens and pushing you back.
Because while you're sitting there on a mana basis, he's just like, I get it back.
Well, even if you don't have mana, if you're playing a champion like Riven, the fact that he can range harass you with no issue of mana is it's just punishing. And so I think he'll be much the same way.
What I think is interesting is he's actually against all the other ninjas, and especially Shen. He's trying to eliminate Akali, Kennen, and Shen because they're going with the old style of the Ionian of balance, yeah, where some of the passives and stuff like that. Like Akali's passive is essentially the balance between AP and AD, and he doesn't like that, so he wants to go for the dark arts of the shadow, and he's just trying to eliminate them all. So he's like, I'm going to go to the field of justice and assassinate them in honorable combat.
They just respawn. Shut up. So, very interesting. Hopefully he'll come out soonish. They'll drop that whole patch, and then we'll invalidate this entire episode.
So one of the more interesting things is that they're pushing back the end of Season 2 again because of the patches and all the other stuff going on this week. That's why we haven't seen Zed.
But there appears to be very good reason for it.
We get new item changes and item terms and all sorts of goodies.
They've been talking about all kinds of stuff that's coming out with Season 3, and one of the big things is the big item overhaul. They've given us a couple of previews. We're going to talk about those a little bit right now. One of the most amazing ones we've seen is Elise's Miracle. They've taken the tenacity away from this item and lowered the health and mana regen, but they've added a new passive to it called Aid. Aid reduces the cooldown of Heal, Clairvoyance, and Revive by 20%. This is part of their, interesting initiative to help support out in the late game and in the early game by giving them more options and making their transition into late game a little easier. But they've done something even cooler with this item.
What happens is this is the unique passive. I'll read it exactly how it says. If you gain 3 levels while holding Elise's Miracle, you gain 10 HP 5, 15 MP 5, and the Aid passive permanently, and the item disappears from your inventory. So what happens is this item essentially is absorbed into the character, and the stats that is given, as well as the passive effects, go into the character. So the item stays with you, but that means you get another item to keep. So you're going to get the tenacity, you're going to get the...
Well, you don't get the tenacity.
Oh, it doesn't come with the tenacity?
Yeah, they removed that as part of this overhaul. Otherwise, that'd be absurd.
Okay, I'm looking at the old one here, that's why I was kind of confused. But no, you're going to get the passive of increased cooldown reduction, right?
On those summoner spells.
On those summoner spells, as well as getting a permanent HP 5 and stuff like that, and the item's gone, and it gives you room for another item, but you still get the benefits to it.
Again, this is one of the cool things we're talking about, making the transition into late game a lot easier for supports. And this is a great way to do that. I mean, they've lowered the statistical bonus so that way it's not something
retarded.
bruisers or mids want to rush because, again, it's still about 1,000 gold for 10 HP5 and 15 MP5. I mean, that's awful. That's a really bad trade for gold. But the aid is what's really nice.
So if you're not using those abilities, what's the point in having them?
Exactly. There is no point to have it. And because you have to gain 3 levels for it, you have to get about at least level 15. So I do see it being viable maybe as casters, grabbing it at level 15, just so they can have a statistical bonus late game.
Honestly, I don't think anybody's going to be grabbing it for the revive.
It's possible. I mean, at Dominion, that might be a good choice.
That's true. I always forget about Dominion. But the Clairvoyance is probably what it's going to be mostly used for if you're going to have like a Sirach or something.
Well, they've
like
also said they're going to change heal to be less of a self-heal and more of an overall heal. So it'll probably be worth it for the heal because they're making heal a very support-specific ability.
That's what I use heal for anyways because I don't use
a lot of supports do.
I use it as another ability I can use to help the team. I don't use it to save my own ass up the top lane because.
And now that they're moving Barrier onto Summoner's Rift,
that is another thing.
I think they're going to make heal more robust for healing allies, while Barrier is going to be better for saving yourself.
And I was wondering why they didn't introduce Barrier sooner into Summoner's Rift. I think they were waiting until the end of the season.
Yeah, because so they could balance around, really.
Yeah, because at the end of the season, all of a sudden, bam, OP Summoner skill that everybody picks up top lane.
Indeed. And another cool item they're changing is Brutalizer. Brutalizer has always been one of my favorite items. And they're nerfing flat armor pen across the board, which, I'm kind of sad about. But, like we've said before, they're making armor pen play nicer with other armor pen sources. So percentage armor pen will be calculated before flat armor pen. Previously, regular armor pen was calculated after percentage. So it would go, okay, reduce your armor by 20, then reduce it by 40%. Now it's reduced by 40%, then reduced by 20, which is a much better calculation. We've talked about changing Black Cleaver to build off of Brutalizer, so Black Cleaver now gets flat AD, flat percentage cooldown, flat armor pen, and a unique passive where whenever you deal physical damage, you reduce their armor by 5% for 6 seconds, stacked up to 5 times.
Now, what's nice about this item is it says any physical hit. So that means it can be a ranged hit, say, from an Urgot shot, or
it could be from Garen's Judgment, it can be from Pantheon's Heartseeker Strike. It could even be from Talon's Q bleed, because his bleed is a physical hit. So you could bleed someone out with Talon's Q and have them lose that armor over time, which will make that bleed hit harder, which is pretty cool.
I don't know. They might have to do some balancing with dots, seeing if the will stack on certain dots.
There's very few physical dots, is the thing. I think Talon's is one of the very few that there is.
Because there's Darius.
Darius is magic.
Okay, I did not know that.
And there are some other ones. Most dots are magic, and Talon's is one of the very few.
Because when you bleed magic.
Indeed. Not true damage or anything like that.
No,
that'd be silly. That actually might be interesting.
A true damage bleed?
Well, true damage bleed, Twitch has that.
Ah.
I mean, it's technically a poison, but whatever, Twitch.
Whatever.
There's one more item they talked about very specifically, and that is Tear of the Goddess and what it builds into. Tear of the Goddess now has a unique passive, which is Mana Charge. Builds up to 750 mana, which is much less than it usually is.
250 less mana.
Indeed, which is sad. But it's a little bit cheaper now, so you can get a little earlier in the game, which is always good news. Now, its mana charge ability says whenever you spend mana rather than whenever you cast a spell. So this means toggled spells like Ash's Arrows, Karth's Devile, and Ivia's Ult all give you charges towards this. There's still a 3-second cooldown, but it'll be a little bit easier if you have sustained spells. It builds into Archangel Staff a little bit cheaper. It still has the same passives on it, but it now has a new thing called Transformation. When you hit the mana cap for Archangel Staff, it transforms into Seraph's Embrace. Seraph's Embrace has more flat mana, more ability power. It loses the unique passive of Mana Charge, and it gains a little bit more MP5. And it has a cool activation, wherein it drains 25% of your mana, and it creates a shield around you of the same amount that it drained for 2.5 seconds. This is
stupid.
Awesome.
So many characters like Rise, Blitzcrank, a lot of those really heavy mana-using champions are just going to be like, give me
Seriously. I can't wait to try this out on Blitzcrank, honestly.
Because, Blitzcrank needs more buffs.
Blitzcrank stacks mana already. Rise stacks mana. Singe stacks mana. And this is just an awesome way to make that mana itemization even cooler.
Singe he wouldn't even build up the tier because he doesn't cast that many things. He'll just be like, I'm going to take this for the shield. Thank you very much.
Well, the thing is, Singed, now that it builds stacks on mana consumption, every time his gas trail's on, he can build charges.
No, oh no.
Rather than just getting him on flings now. So this is actually a viable item on him.
Oh no.
Which
no,
is
help me.
Awesome.
No.
Because Singed's passive is one of the coolest passives in the game, in my opinion.
Oh,
especially when you combine that with the specific... I forget what it's called, but the very bottom of the utility tree, there's something that gives you MP5 based on your current mana.
Yeah.
And you can just do this on Singed. Just, hey, I'm Singed. I'm not so Singed. And he'll just... This is awesome. I'm so excited that they're adding cool items rather than just...
I love the
Hey, you get 50 attack damage and 50 armor. There's your item. Cool things are so much better.
I like both the idea of having items that absorb into the character, as well as having items that transform. Because having a transforming item is kind of cool. We could have like a luck-based one.
No, I wouldn't say luck-based, but like even items that transform in their looks, like Rengar's Bone Tooth Necklace. Like it starts off with one little tiny bone. And then as you get more bones, it gets bigger and it gets more bones on it. Like, I'd love to see, like, Infinity Edge. Like, after you get, like, 50 kills, it becomes blood-soaked Infinity Edge.
They could make Victor's item transform or absorb into him.
Ooh.
Think about it. After having 3 levels or something, just like Elise's thing, his staff becomes part of him.
Or after dealing X amount of damage with a certain ability.
Yeah.
It transforms.
Or getting a certain amount of... Something like that, but it can go away, and then you're going to get the benefits of it.
That is an awesome idea with their new system.
Riot. This one's free.
But there's a lot of cool stuff happening. You guys already know about the season icons. We've talked about those.
Morello talked about a few other things on some red posts. A lot of really interesting... There's so much to go over.
They've made certain classes get more items for them. We talked about that a little bit. Items have been changed. They're talking about gold intake for certain roles. They're making the jungle a little bit more friendly. And they're just making items more diverse and specific. So you can go, okay, well, I want to build for more, like, CC power. You can build for CC power now. Or I want to build for better support. I can build for better support. So there's no more stock items. There's no more meta golem, is what they're trying to do. Which is really cool.
They're also going to go into the mastery trees. They feel that the utility tree is very underwhelming once you build deep into it. Early flat magic resistant armor pen in armor prevents people from being killed even if they're getting really outplayed in the lane. And there aren't enough cool masteries. The fact that they want to bring out some more interesting masteries instead of just flat, just
you get
MP5.
6 armor. You get 7 health.
Because the fun masteries are why you want to go in there.
The fun masteries are in utility tree. That's why no one goes utility.
Because, think about it. In the defensive tree, you get the you get that small aura that lets you deal more damage to towers. That's sweet if you're a tank. Or if you build into the damage tree, you get, all sorts of really cool abilities, and then it's just you're helping people! Hurrah!
Yes, you are helping people.
You don't get anything cool, though. But they're getting the staffs.
One of my favorite abilities in the offensive tree is the one that lets you deal more damage to towers. I get that on Garen. Oh, baby. Auto attack Q, and I melt towers with that mastery. It's amazing. But they're also talking about changing the jungle and changing some of the summoner spells. They're nerfing Flash.
Well, what they're doing is...
I've been playing some Smurfs lately, let me be honest. In level 3 games where no one has Flash. It's the most fun I've had playing League in a long time.
Because you don't have to worry about them flashing away.
I don't have to worry about people flashing away. Everyone's ghosting after each other. Hey! It's awesome.
Well, what they're going to do is they're raising the cooldown of popular summoner abilities like Flash, Ignite, and probably, Exhaust. And they're just adding a higher cooldown, but they're not reducing the power of it. So it's going to be longer. So if you want to flash, you can't just waste it willy-nilly. if you want to keep the flash, you're gonna have to find the right time to use it. So if you blow it early on, you're gonna be sitting there with like a 200, 300 second cooldown and just be like, I can't do anything.
But I'm glad they're nerfing Ignite, or maybe they should even change Ignite. But who knows? Surge might be more viable here soon. I'd love to see them change Ignite to be a damage amplify ability rather than a flat damage ability. I think that'd be a lot more cool. Like, Ignite puts the heal debuff on them, because I think that's the most important part of Ignite, is the heal debuff. And instead of doing true damage, let's say it makes, 10% of the damage you deal into true damage.
Yeah.
Like, that would be cool as an Ignite change. But we're getting a little ahead of ourselves.
We're going to have to move on. There's so much information here that we're going to have to skip a lot.
Again, guys, all this information is up at surrenderat20.net. These guys are awesome. They compile all the stuff. They have links to everything. They have all kinds of updates. Go check them out. It's surrenderat20.net. We check them out all the time. They've got lots of cool stuff. Or you can check the official forums. It's all up there as well.
A lot of the stuff they are putting on the main site. So
Indeed.
They're excited for it. We're excited for it. We're going to be moving on to our own section now. Our question this week comes from our good friend, Master12.
Master12.
Shut up. He asked, why did you guys change the music of your opening? Well, we changed it just to keep it kind of... I like changing the music on and off, and I was working on this new intro for a class, so I thought I'd put it up and use it as a new intro, mainly because the old intro used the old software for what I used to edit, and since I'm not using that anymore, it's really hard to kind of use it. So using this new intro, and I had the music changed to it, I can change it to whatever I feel like, so if not a lot of people are liking this song, I can find another one, especially like free sounded stuff, a lot of the free, royalty-free music, stuff like that, so I can change it very easily. So if you guys really do not like it, I can change it really fast. And as well as the intro, if people want to get a different intro going, again, I can change it. But that's why. It's not because I didn't like the song. It's just more or less working on a project, and that was the music that fit the tone. Do you have any insight on anything about that, Axis? Because you helped so much with that.
I would say that when he was doing the intro, he had to do it for Clace. He had a lot of Clace.
Yeah, so that's pretty much why. There was no real reason to it. It just kind of was.
We just wanted to confuse and bewilder our fans.
Because that's what we do here. Confuse and bewilder anybody that clicks on that link.
Hey, hey, you want to come to the party with us? And just hit him with a mallet. Where did you get a mallet? I don't know.
Oh, okay, that's cool.
So
you see the game last night?
Yes, we did. You just walk away. And don't worry about it. It's fine.
No,
I'm so excited for season 3. I just got my silver overall ranking, so I'm really happy about that.
Yeah,
I'm sorry.
I'm just upset. I was 8-1, and then I went to go play my last 2 games, and I just played horribly. So now I'm down to 1200. I lost all hope in humanity.
You're 12. Isn't that bronze?
I'm still silver.
Okay, so
I'm still silver, but I was 30 points away from gold. 30 points. And I just shit the bed. So.
Wow, you feel very passionately about this.
I lost horribly in those 2 games. It's just. It was awful.
I'm gold, silver, silver, so I'm going to get a silver overall. I'm excited about that.
I need to do 5s to get that overall.
Well, you're out of time. You got to do it.
I give up about season 2. I started too late in the season, so.
You hear that, folks? I'm the highest ranking in the channel. Yes!
Well, when one person...
I'm the most credible person here, is what we're trying to say. This has been Axis.
My water elemental.
I'm the best around. Nothing's ever gonna keep you down.